Oh yeah, this is going in the
Jesus
cold
Christ.
open.
Let's
This
wrap
is
this
going in
up.
the cold open.
Oh my God. You don't fucking tell me what goes in the cold open.
Hello, happy Tuesday, everyone. This is Our Hero De Niro. I am Mike, here with my co-host Mike, as always, no relation.
Hello.
Hello. And today we are going to discuss James Mangold's 1997 film Copland. Really more of a Sylvester Stallone picture than a Robert De Niro picture. We'll certainly talk throughout our discussion about how little Robert De Niro was in this movie, but it was striking, I think. My kind of estimate, I don't know if you looked it up, but it doesn't feel like he could possibly have had more than 6 minutes of screen time.
I didn't look it up. It's not the sort of thing I would ever look up, but he definitely wasn't prominently featured in it. He was in a minor supporting role. It's really a Sly Stallone film, but that's great. Like that's part of the fun of this. You know, we've been burned a couple of times so far on Robert De Niro films that are like De Niro films in name only, but they're like really bad. Now we have the opportunity to see one of those where, hey, it's really someone else's starring vehicle, but that doesn't mean it's not a good movie. It's just not a Robert De Niro starring vehicle. That's totally fine.
So agree. Yeah, I think that this film certainly has issues, but there's a lot to love about it, and it is I don't know about you. I'm a big Sylvester Stallone fan. I don't know how you could possibly not be.
No, of course.
He's really nice in this movie. I really I said to Caroline last night, we were talking about it, just about what my take on the movie was, and I feel like Sylvester Stallone plays the ultimate like dumb decent guy. And I feel like he's really like he's playing to his type in this film really, really well. It's very nice. I feel like his character has a compelling arc. I think it's fun that he's fat in the role. I don't know if you know that, but I read the Wikipedia article earlier today. He gained 40 pounds for it to look really fat and dumpy, like a small town sheriff would. I think that's really fun. You got anything you want to talk about this week, or should we just get right into it?
Well, I want to contextualize this. This came out in 1997, and are you going to talk about the director at all, or should we get into that at the top a little bit?
No, you can go ahead and do it if you want to do it. Yep.
I just wanted to say that this is written and directed by James Mangold, who is a director that we briefly mentioned when we rolled this film, but he's a director that I'm very familiar with. His work, he's done The Wolverine, Logan, Ford versus Ferrari, all of which I have seen. He's also done Walk the Line and A Complete Unknown, which I haven't seen. How do you feel about James Mangold's films? Or do you have much familiarity with them? I'm just kind of curious when you came into this, what you were thinking or what you were expecting.
Yeah, I think Walk the Line is the only one I've seen. I saw Walk the Line. When did that come out? Like 2006, maybe 2006, 2007. It was a really long time ago. I think I saw it around the time when it came out. Like I liked it, but I don't remember anything about it. What I remember is Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, the John C. Reilly film. That's like that's a parody of it, and I love that movie. That's one I feel really strongly about. So there you go. I don't know. What about you? What have you seen?
It's tough. It's tough when a parody like that comes out where afterwards you kind of feel like, okay, is there really anything else we can do in the genre at this point? Like they took the piss out of us so well with that film. James Mangold to me is really the ultimate director of dad films. Like that's how I see him in my mind. I like every James Mangold movie that I've seen up until this point. I have no negative feelings really, but they've never really inspired strong feelings for me. Like every time I watch a James Mangold film, like Ford versus Ferrari is a perfect example. I watch it and I'm like, yeah, that was really good. But it never, for whatever reason, it doesn't kind of like pull me in the way that films by some other directors do. And my controversial James Mangold take is that I'm not as big a fan of Logan as everyone else who's seen it. I think curiously you've never seen Logan, which is really bizarre. But I've seen Logan twice.
I need to watch that.
I think it's very good. I mean, everyone loves it and says it's one of the best superhero films, and I don't even necessarily disagree with them. But it didn't quite work for me in the way that it did for everyone else. And so that's kind of how I was coming into Copland, thinking, okay, here's a director who makes films that I like, but never really love. And how am I going to feel about Copland? So with that, feel free to take it away.
So here we are. This is Copland. Let me just say, I found this film pretty confusing. Did you find this film confusing?
I don't know if confusing is the right word, but I feel like when we discuss these films on the podcast, I tend to confuse myself more. So
Sure.
I guess we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I feel like this was one of those films where I think I was really kind of done in by my face blindness a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I had a lot of trouble for a really long time telling the characters apart. I know who all these actors are, obviously, but it was like 30 years ago.
Right.
So they look pretty different. Like, I actually didn't recognize Michael Rappaport when he was first on screen.
Oh, that is
he
the
looks
face
so
blindness.
young. Like, he looks like a
sure.
he looks like a little baby. Like,
yeah, he does. He does.
So, I found this pretty confusing. I think that with the benefit of some reflection and rereading my notes and reading the Wikipedia article, I think I understand what happened. But I'm gonna do my best here. So this is it's a crime drama, and it's about this group of cops. And there's a De Niro voiceover at the start of the film. It's 21 seconds in. I don't know if you noted when the voiceover started, but it was 21 seconds in.
No, I only know when he's visible. Yeah, I only know when he's
we're not going to see his face for a real long time. But I want to see that mugshot, baby. Yep. And he gives a voiceover explaining the kind of policy and politics of the NYPD in this era, which is, and this is a thing about municipal police departments, you have to live in the municipality to be a police officer. I know that's true here where we live. I know that it's true in New York City. I don't know if it's true everywhere, but like it makes sense. You have to live in the area that you're responsible for policing. But De Niro explains that there's this group of cops who have managed to find a way around this requirement by being established as, quote, auxiliary transit cops, who are kind of a part of like an extended transit authority and therefore get to live in New Jersey. So that's kind of the stage being set for this film.
And who wouldn't want to live in New Jersey?
And who wouldn't want to live in New Jersey? I mean, I don't know. I guess if you live in like 1995, 96 era New York City, like maybe you'd want to live in New Jersey. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like the 90s, you were kind of coming out of the bad times in New York City, right? And now New York City has been quite good for the past 20 or 25 years. But I think in the 90s, you were kind of coming out of the really bad period of the 70s and 80s when crime rates were really high. And there was especially a lot of very violent crime that made people uncomfortable. We're kind of in another one of those moments politically, I think, and in a lot of the discourse about safety in New York City. And
I love discourse.
Blown out of proportion. Yeah, who doesn't love discourse?
Well, I want to add for my own personal background here. I was born in New York City in the late 80s, and I was my parents' first kid. And yeah, they wanted to get the hell out of there. So when I was 1 year old, they actually moved up from the Bronx, way upstate, because they did not feel that New York was like a good place to raise a family. So I totally get that perspective. And yeah, it took a while for that to sort of, that reputation to sort of turn around. And here I am. Lucky me.
They should have moved to Jersey,
Yeah, they should have moved to Copland. My dad, well, now he's retired, but he was an NYPD beat cop. He should have moved to Copland. Well, maybe not as we'll see.
Could have been an auxiliary transit cop.
Yeah.
All right. So we got that De Niro voiceover. He kind of explains. And then at the end of the voiceover, he explains that, this concept of there being a cop bar, for every precinct and every kind of small zone that a precinct is tagged to. And so we start at the Four Aces Tavern, which is Precinct 37's cop bar. So you got Sylvester Stallone there. He's playing an arcade game. You got Ray Liotta. He's talking to Edie Falco. She's in this movie. A lot of people from The Sopranos in this movie.
Oh, I love
really
it so
excited
much.
to talk about that. Don't know. There's so many of them.
For the record, I'm not trying to correct you or anything. I'm not trying to be like a presidential debate. But he was playing pinball.
Was it supposed to be pinball? I thought it was a video game.
No,
there's a whole conversation that he has with Ray Liotta outside about how some people are pinball people and some people are video game people, and I thought the point was he was playing a video game. Was the point that he was playing pinball?
And he said, "And you are a pinball person."
I totally missed that. Yeah, no wonder I found the film confusing.
Take it away with the recap.
Yep. So Edie Falco's talking to Ray Liotta about something that happened to her, and it doesn't really matter. So then Ray Liotta goes into a phone booth and he's making a call, and Sylvester Stallone is closing his tab, and we're kind of establishing, I think, in this scene, like, what the emotional and personality dynamics are amongst these people. Sylvester Stallone seems, like maybe he's like a little bit of a dipshit, well-meaning enough. He's obviously a cop of some kind because he's allowed in the cop bar. De Niro's made it very clear in the opening voiceover that you're not allowed to go in the cop bar if you're not a cop. And so Stallone closes his tab.
Hold on, because I kind of forgot that from the opening narration. Is that a viable business model? Maybe it is, but like only in this particular town where they've bought everything up. That seems kind of crazy, doesn't it?
I think it probably depends on the area. Like, I can't imagine that here there are like cop bars, but I would think in New York City, like, I mean, there's like, I don't know, there's like 70,000 NYPD cops, aren't there? Like, it's like a ridiculous number of people. So I would have to think, and like, I don't know, how many NYPD cops are there?
I don't fucking know, man. You ask me that as though it's common knowledge.
It's a little lower than I thought. It's 45,000. But yeah, I mean, there are like a lot of people, and like those people are all making like, I don't know, with OT, probably buck and a half at least. So I think you could run some bars that only took cops. Yeah, I would think.
Okay.
But it would have to be in like a very populous area with a large police department, I think. And here, I think it will work. I think it is a viable business model in this weird New Jersey town. They
own the whole town. Yeah, they've bought everything up.
Yeah. So Sylvester Stallone's closing his tab. He's pretty drunk. This is an incredible like 90s moment, by the way. He walks out of the bar. He's obviously drunk. He can barely walk. And Ray Liotta walks out to him and says that thing about pinball and video games that I totally misunderstood. And then he's like, hey, you okay to drive? As he physically helps him to his car. And he like is so obviously is not okay to drive. And he gets in his car because he says he is okay to drive. And, as he's driving home, he swerves to avoid a deer and ends up careening into the woods and hits a fallen tree.
Right. Because on the one hand, sure, you can drive home drunk because you're a cop and like who's going to pull you over? You're the one with that power. But on the other hand, like, I don't know, dude, Sly is drunk. Like he shouldn't be behind the wheel because he might fucking kill himself. And he drives into a tree like 5 minutes later.
So quickly. It's like a cut. Like it's like less than 60 seconds of screen time before he hits the tree. That scene ends. And now we are at a strip club called Scores. And Michael Rappaport's there.
That is a good name for a strip club.
Yep, I agree. He's walking out, and as he gets to his car, he hears like a struggle happening, like somebody kind of grunting.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Sounds
noise.
Like maybe they're vomiting. Yep. And so he grabs his sidearm and a flashlight, and he goes over there, but it's just some cops he knows, so he leaves in his car. As he's driving, this is kind of the inciting incident for the drama of the film.
You know what? Let us just stop right here and compare it to Savage Salvation. When you said inciting incident, I had like a violent
like
flashback.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. That is the difference between James Mangold and Emmett, whatever the hell that guy's name was, the Savage Salvation guy.
Favorite director.
Where it took 45 minutes to get to the inciting incident in a 100-minute long film.
Literally, 40% of the runtime of the time of the film.
Yeah.
So here's the inciting incident for the film. Michael Rappaport is driving. What's his character's name? At some point, we're gonna have to start calling people by their names.
Are we? Why?
He's Babbage, but I'm just gonna call him Michael Rappaport.
He's Murray.
So
Babbage.
He's driving.
But yeah, you just call him Michael Rappaport.
And there's two black dudes who are driving in another car, and they're kind of driving recklessly. And I don't think they did this on purpose. They're probably driving drunk or just driving recklessly in some way. And they side-swipe the side of his car and like really mess up like the clear coat and the paint on the outside.
Pretty severe side swipe action happening on
I agree. Like, yeah, it
highway.
wasn't just like a ding. Like, it was like, $5,000 in damage. Like, several panels need to be replaced. Like, pretty serious. And it looked like a nice car, right? Like,
it was a Honda. I think it was a Honda Accord hatch.
There you go. Beautiful car. I drive a Honda Accord.
Yeah. That's right. And I used to be a Honda man. I have nothing but love for Hondas.
Yeah, it's a wonderful car. Great company. They make a nice car. We're lucky to have them.
Don't sideswipe my Honda.
Yep. So he's really pissed. And so he kind of pursues these guys driving this other car, and he gets close enough up to them so that they have an angle to see his face, and he holds his badge out the window and he's like, hey, NYPD, pull over, whatever.
Yeah.
And so they respond by pointing something kind of black and matte out the window at him that looks like a gun. And for what it's worth, I thought it was a gun in the scene. But but it will be revealed that it was not a gun.
Right. So you thought it was a gun. Yep. I didn't.
I did. Yep.
I didn't think it was a gun, but because so later it's revealed that it's a steering wheel lock, and I haven't seen one of those since the 90s. So like I saw it, and I was thinking to myself, okay, they're aiming something. But like, what is this device? And it wasn't until it was stated later that I was like, oh, that's right. Like people used to use those. Does anyone still use a steering wheel lock? Does it even matter nowadays with like electric steering racks? Do you really need
to? They automatically lock now.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I guess, and people will just steal your catalytic converter. They don't even need to take the whole car.
I think that you needed steering wheel locks because it used to be that the only thing that created tension was that the power steering wouldn't be on. Yeah. But like if you got the car moving, you could turn the wheel. But now I think there's locking built into the mechanism of the steering wheel.
That would make sense. It was a little archaic seeing it. Yeah.
I neglected to mention something that was an important lead up to this. In the previous scene, when he'd driven away from the strip club, he drove over a beer bottle and it broke. So this happens, and just as one of the dudes in the car who sideswiped him points the steering wheel lock out of the car, his tire pops from the puncture from running over the glass bottle in the previous scene, which he understandably kind of marries up in his mind with this thing that he sees quickly that looks like a gun. And he's like, oh, like not only is this guy pointing a gun out the window at me, but he's firing the gun and he actually just hit my tire and made it explode. So like now he's kind of freaking out. So he pulls his gun out and he takes some shots at the car, and he's going pretty fast. He can't really stop very well because he doesn't have good traction because one of his tires is flattened. And after he fires these shots, the car that he was shooting at that has the black dudes in it does a J-turn, and it just kind of stops in front of him, and he can't stop quickly enough because he doesn't have enough traction with his tire, and so he slams into the car that has these two dudes in it that's done the J-turn and stopped. And they're on a bridge. I didn't mention that's important that they're on a bridge. It will be very.
They're on the George Washington Bridge.
There we go. End of that scene. So now we're back with Stallone. He's at a river after his car accident, and he's just kind of looking kind of wistful and reflective. Not really sure what we were supposed to take away from that scene. Then we cut back to the accident with Michael Rappaport, and John Spencer is in this movie. Getting some West Wing guys here.
He was
well.
Great.
Like,
they're all great. So
he's so good in the movie. I agree. Yeah, this is an incredible cast. Like, oh my god, I love all these people. They're awesome. So the black dudes are dead, who were in the car, and there's no gun in the car. Everybody is really upset about this. So one of the cops tries to plant a gun in the car, but there's an EMT. The EMT is black, who's over in an ambulance, kind of looking on to the crime scene where this cop is planting evidence.
Yeah, he sees what's going on.
And he accuses him of having planted the evidence, and it becomes this altercation. And in the ensuing kind of scuffle of the cop who tried to plant the gun, I think he takes a swing at the EMT. The EMT is defending himself. Everybody's kind of paying attention to that. Michael Rappaport jumps off the bridge and kills himself.
Okay. Let's assess this situation for a moment. All of this shit was crazy. I think there were a lot of breakdowns that occurred along the way. First of all, I'm not trying to victim blame here, but why, if you are those two unarmed black guys, after you sideswipe into someone's car late at night, you don't know if it's a cop, you don't know who it is. It could be a crazy person. They could have a gun. Why do you pretend to aim a gun at them? Like what do you think might happen? Or they didn't know he was a cop.
They did know he was a cop because unless I'm misremembering,
he flashed the badge first and yelled
the gun at him was a response to him flashing the badge.
Right. So you know the cop has a gun. Like they always have their guns.
Right. The cops carry guns. Yeah. Yep. But then not our finest citizens, these two gentlemen. And may they rest in peace. But
right. And Michael Rappaport, not our finest cop, because his response is to start shooting wildly out of his window,
squeeze off a few wild ones.
Right. Yeah. It's like how when you're playing Grand Theft Auto and you're trying to engage in vehicular combat, it's like, dude, why do you? Is that the textbook response to this situation? Like, I don't know, man. I don't think that's a very good idea because what happened is he ended up killing these two unarmed black men. Fucking crazy. So yeah, bad situation all around. And if you're Michael Rappaport, maybe you just jump off the fucking bridge.
Yeah, I mean, and there was Michael Rappaport jumping off the bridge makes sense narratively in the scene, because it's explained that someone who he knew, and this will become even more important later in the film, some other cop had something happen in like a similar sort of situation where he was accused of, some kind of malfeasance that resulted in the death of someone. It's heavily implied that that whomever the victim was black, because there's a kind of race politics dimension to the story of this film, and ended up ultimately killing himself in prison. And so Michael Rappaport is like, he's seeing his life kind of unraveling before his eyes as a consequence of this mistake that he's made. So it all makes sense. So now we're back. Sylvester Stallone's house. Noah Emmerich's there. Love Noah Emmerich.
Hell yeah. So many great character actors in here.
From The Americans. And he is a deputy. And Sylvester Stallone is the sheriff of this town, Copland. And they've got a newspaper. It's kind of a tabloid looking paper, the Daily News, open on the kitchen table. And there's an article there on the front page about Michael Rappaport's suicide. And then we move very quickly to some EMTs, one of whom was the one who was on the bridge who accused the cop of planting the evidence the night before. They're at a precinct. There's a radio news report about Michael Rappaport's suicide playing. And they are vocally expressing skepticism that he actually killed himself. They don't believe that he's actually dead. So now we have our first Robert De Niro sighting, and I'd love to give you the chance to say when it was.
I'm kind of a trailblazer in this podcast, kind of a trendsetter. Yep. I had it down at 14 minutes and 56 seconds.
I wrote 14:57, but I think we can just chalk that up to me being a little slower on the pause button.
Yeah, 14:56 and 30 seconds, people. That's for you, De Niro Nation.
So they're there. And the cops and the EMTs, they're being questioned in some kind of an interrogation room or something like that. And the cops who are doing the questioning do not believe that Rappaport actually killed himself. But the cop who was there on the bridge last night, who gave the attestation that Michael Rappaport is dead, is insisting that it's true. And De Niro is kind of in charge of this whole deal. He appears to be the ranking officer in this interrogation that's happening. I didn't really understand at this point what was happening kind of politically in the film yet, but it turns out Robert De Niro is an IA cop, internal affairs. Seems like he's relatively high up, and he's got a hard-on. I was trying to think of what expression I wanted to use. He's got a hard-on for this whole situation, for Copland and these cops who live out in New Jersey. He seems to have a feeling that there's something untoward, maybe something a little shifty going on with these folks, and this is his thing. He's looking into this. You have anything you want to add here? You have something you want to add?
No. So far, so good. I think De Niro is lieutenant in internal affairs. And did you mention Harvey Keitel yet? No, he was there. He was there, right?
Yeah, I don't think I've mentioned him. He's one of the cops. Was he the cop who said he killed himself? He may have been. Because he's the ringleader, right?
I think we should identify just two of these cops. So the one who tried planting the gun in the dead guy's car. It took me forever to realize who this was. It's Robert Patrick, the Terminator from T2.
Oh, but it is. I'm looking at a picture. Yeah, you're right.
But he has a mustache in this film, so I kept calling him Mustache because it took me forever to realize who I was looking. So he's great. He's kind of like the right-hand man to Harvey Keitel, who's kind of like the ringleader of the Copland cops. So Michael Rappaport is Harvey Keitel's nephew.
Correct. Yes. All right, so we're into the next scene. Janeane Garofalo's here. I really liked her in this one.
Yeah, what'd you think of her performance? You liked it?
Yeah, I thought it was great. What did you think of it?
I thought it was totally fine. I Googled this film. I just kind of searched to see if there was any discourse about it on Reddit after I watched it. And there was some comment I saw that alluded to people not liking Janeane Garofalo's performance. And I don't know why anyone would think that. She was totally fine. It was just like a minor dramatic role. She has like 5 lines in the entire thing, but I thought she was good. I certainly like 90s Janeane Garofalo. Funny lady.
Yeah, I wish she had more.
But this film is not long. This is a 101 minute long film, so it's cramming a lot in here. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more later.
We certainly will. I'm excited to hear what you think about that. So she's another of Stallone's deputies, and they're running a speed trap. They clock somebody going 71, think reasonable to assume wherever they were, the speed limit was either 45 or 55. So pretty significant overage on the speed. And they kind of chase after the car and pull them over. And it turns out that it's the cops from the earlier scene. They must be coming
Harvey
back.
Keitel, Robert Patrick. Yeah.
The cops are really argumentative and pretty misogynistic. You should focus on the bad guys, etc. And Stallone kind of backs her off and he lets them go. And I think this is the first moment where we're like, oh, these guys suck. You know, like they don't just suck in the way that I think, everybody reasonably assumes that there's, some graft and untoward stuff going on with police unions and things like that. But like these are like particularly scummy, really bad guys.
Yeah, these guys are kind of pricks.
Right, very interested in protecting the interests of police officers rather than actually, serving justice or stopping bad guys or, the things that cops are ostensibly supposed to be responsible for doing. And I'm really excited to talk about the politics of this movie. It's pretty straightforward, I think, but it really is like, I don't know, isn't police grift and like corruption? That's like one of society's biggest problems, isn't it? It's really bad.
I don't know the scope of it, honestly. I mean, yeah, I agree it's bad in principle. I don't know the scope of it.
Well, I just think that, it's kind of borne out in, I think, how ubiquitous in culture it is to be like anti-internal affairs, like this idea that like there's something fundamentally disloyal about like actually trying to enforce compliance with like rules and oversight. That's like so antithetical to like everything that I believe about the world. And I think, I don't know, like these guys are really terrible. And I think police unions are really, really bad. And like, it's all just very bad. I don't know. I don't know what your attitudes are about this kind of stuff. Other than I think the general milquetoast attitude that like, yes, of course, police corruption is bad, but like,
sure.
I don't know. I think there are like some very targeted changes that could be made to the structures of policing in America that wouldn't fix all of the problems, but like you could clean a lot of this stuff up pretty easily, I think.
I don't know about easily, but yeah, sure. If you could overcome that resistance
I think technically, practically it's almost impossible, but I mean, technically,
but I agree with you. I agree with you.
Will never happen.
Yeah.
So, Stallone and Garofalo are back at the sheriff's office, and this is the first point where we see Annabella Sciorra. I guess I've never heard her name. Is it Sciorra, Shora, Sciorra? She plays a lady named Liz.
I have no idea, man. I know how to say Liz.
Very hot lady.
Yeah.
Also, so this is the first time we see her. Sylvester Stallone is looking out the window and watching just very wistfully as this lady, Liz, gets into a minivan with a little girl. She's maybe like 6 or 7 years old. We're back with De Niro. He's walking into a convenience store somewhere in Jersey, and Harvey Keitel, his band of goons.
I mean, it's in Garrison. It's in Copland.
Yeah.
Yeah, Garrison. You just said somewhere in Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, the place.
Yeah, well, somewhere in Jersey is a little...
This is an unnecessary correction. You're going to have to cut this in
post. Here... I'm not going to cut this in post. Yep. Here's a necessary correction.
Yep.
You didn't include a major point during the scene where Sly Stallone and Janeane Garofalo pull over.
That's great. I can't wait to hear it. That's what it's all about. Yeah.
They pull over Harvey Keitel and Robert Patrick, and Michael Rappaport is in the back seat. He's hiding down low because he's faked his own death.
Okay. Yep.
And as Harvey Keitel drives off, blazing in his sweet ass fucking car, Michael Rappaport, the dummy that he is, pops his head up and looks back at Stallone. Stallone sees and IDs Michael Rappaport. I was just waiting. I was waiting. Is he gonna say it? And you didn't say it. Don't give me shit about my corrections.
I don't think I need a fucking buzzer.
I need a buzzer. Oh my god!
I don't think I caught that. Hey, we should get one. We should
get
a buzzer. That's a great idea.
That would honestly be a lot.
Yeah.
It might not be as much fun for the listeners. I think it'd be fun for us. I think recording
it's pretty funny.
Maybe we'll do maybe we'll figure out a way to
for
do
now.
One episode
You can
like
edit
that.
them in. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
So Robert De Niro walks into this convenience store. The cops are hanging out in there, and so we find out De Niro's character's name. It's Mo. He's known Keitel since they were at the police academy together.
They have history.
Yes, they have a history. And this is the point where it is established explicitly that De Niro is a lieutenant in internal affairs. And as they walk out, or as he walks out, Harvey Keitel makes a comment to his goons, that De Niro's, I think he's a fucking rat, I think is what he said.
Rat.
Exactly.
Yeah. Internal affairs always getting a bad rap.
I know. I agree. I'm pro internal affairs. So he's walking out to his car, and Stallone is there. And he gives Stallone his card in case he ever wants to talk about anything confidentially, because we've established at this point that he's got it out for the Copland cops. He clearly suspects there's something going on with these cops who are out here in Copland. And so we cut a little bit ahead in the day, and Stallone is at Liz's house, the lady whom he was watching through the window in the earlier scene. He's brought a stuffed dinosaur back for the little girl. And I want you to fill something in here for me, because I'm pretty confused about what happened. I think later in the movie, it'll be revealed that her husband is like still alive, because he's going to die later in the film. Spoiler alert. But like in this movie, or in this scene, I got the impression from something about their conversation that like her husband was dead. Or was that like her brother or like a friend of hers or something? The cop who'd already died. Do you understand what was happening in the scene?
Okay, this is great. I'm actually really glad that you're bringing this up, because I think it is a failure on the movie's part. The way Sly, he's at Liz's home, and he's kind of looking around inside. There's pictures everywhere, and we see a picture of this guy in a police uniform who is, ostensibly Liz's husband. And there's something about the visual language of that scene, the way it's shot, that also made me think, I literally wrote dead husband situation.
Right, it's like a shrine.
That's that's what I thought it was. Like Sly was looking and seeing that, like, she lost her husband in the line of duty or something. No, he's very much alive, and we'll meet him in a little bit.
He's one of the scumbags.
Yep.
So Liz tells Stallone that she was going to call his office because somebody's been dumping garbage bags near her house. And so here we are. Then we cut to the next scene with Stallone, and he is talking to a lady who he thinks is the person who's dumping the garbage at Liz's house. It turns out this lady's Harvey Keitel's wife. As he's leaving, Harvey Keitel returns and wonders out loud facetiously to Stallone whether he was there to kind of write him, retroactively write the ticket that he'd let him off for earlier in the day for the speeding.
Yeah, he doesn't think too highly of the sheriff of Copland. Also, Harvey Keitel's wife is having an affair with Liz's husband, who's not dead.
Yeah, okay, so I only learned that when I read the Wikipedia article earlier today. So what did I miss? How did you know that at this point in the film?
She said she has some line when Sly is interviewing her at her house. She says something to the effect of, "I'll stop throwing my garbage in their lawn when he stops soiling my sheets." Something like that. She's implying that they were banging.
Yeah, I don't understand though. Like,
I don't know why that was inspiring her to like dump garbage in their yard, but
right, that's
they're
the
banging.
Thing. It doesn't make any sense. Like,
no, but they do refer back to it later.
Now we cut to another scene of Sylvester Stallone, and he is sitting on the kind of side of a river. I'm assuming the Hudson, right, in his car, and he's looking into the river. And he sees, and it's kind of unclear in the scene what exactly is happening, whether it's really happening, whether it's a memory or an hallucination. It will be revealed that it is a memory. He's watching out his window, and he sees a man sitting on the edge of the river, and then he hears a kind of the sound of an ongoing car accident on the bridge above him, and he sees a car careen off the bridge down into the river, and then the man who he was watching sitting on the side of the road dive into the water after the car goes in. And that is the end of that scene. You have anything you want to say about that?
No, I'm just imagining like watching the movie, and at the end of every scene, there's just like a little card that says "End of scene." Just like, damn it, dude! James Mangold wasted like 5 minutes with these fucking interstitial cards. We did not need them.
I gotta do like
is not a
there's
long
like a
movie.
special cut. Right, there's a special cut on the DVD where where you don't have those in there. They're for the really perceptive viewers. I'm not one of them. So the cops are back at the bar. And I think this is the moment where we first start to detect. So earlier it's been established that these guys fucking suck. And I think this is the first moment where it's established that there's like trouble in paradise. These guys suck, but like the front is not unified. There's a lot of acrimony. There are a lot of like disagreements about the things that they're doing. There's a lot of like love lost between these folks, even though they're in league with each other, with regard to whatever shifty shit they're doing. And let's think about this. So I'm trying to parse my notes now with the benefit of what I know, having seen the whole movie.
All right.
So why don't you explain?
We're in the shit now, De Niro Nation. The mechanics of what? What scene are you talking about?
So this is the scene where they're all arguing at the table. Keitel's there, Ray Liotta, the Terminator's there, the T-1000.
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone's there, but he's kind of like off to the side. This is the part where we find out that Ray Liotta is addicted to coke. Like, this is when the first accusation is leveled at him for being a cokehead, but nothing has been established other than the accusation. Remember what they're fighting about? Like, I wrote down there was like an argument about an affair happening. Maybe this was an argument about Liz's husband having an affair with Harvey Keitel's wife. Maybe that's what they're arguing about.
Harvey Keitel does not know.
Okay.
But Sly Stallone is on the phone with Liz during this scene, and that is when we find out that Sylvester Stallone, he saved Liz's life when he was younger, but she married Joey, and Joey sucks. And so, I think it's just, we're getting some flavor, we're getting a little bit of news position, conversation, exposition. There's like an investigation going into the gun planting incident. There's a protest that's being planned on the George Washington Bridge about it. So like shit's kind of, bubbling up. And then Ray Liotta is called over to Keitel's table. It's where we learn about the coke thing, yada, yada. And apparently Internal Affairs is like looking into Ray Liotta for stealing confiscated drugs, which, I guess you would be bummed about if you were a dirty cop who's stealing drugs to fucking resell them. But like, I don't know. I don't think IA is bad for that.
Sure. I mean, I don't think you should be able to do that. And so this is, I think, the first scene where we hear explicitly about something I referenced earlier in the scene on the bridge with Michael Rappaport, where he heard about the cop who died in custody, who'd killed himself. So this is the point where we first hear about this guy. And so he was a part of this group of cops, and Ray Liotta like wants to talk about it, but it seems like Harvey Keitel really doesn't want to talk about it in a way that makes it seem to us, the viewers, like there's like more to this story that folks don't want to engage with.
Maybe a cover up or something of the sort.
Yeah. All right. So Stallone and Emmerich go over to Liz's house. She's having an argument with her husband. What's his name?
Joey.
Joey Randone. Yep. She's having an argument with Joey. And he's Peter Berg. Who is this guy? I'm looking at the picture of this guy. I don't know if I've ever seen him.
What are you fucking talking about?
I'm just trying to remember like what this guy looked like. Anyway, so he goes over there, and she's having an argument with him. She won't let him into the house. But eventually, because Sylvester Stallone's out there, she opens the door to the chain so that she can talk to him. And Joey takes this opportunity, it's a weakened door, to kick it down. He goes inside. You hear the little girl crying. But Liz says that it's fine that he's in the house because he didn't actually do anything to her, and she hit him with a bottle, and he did have like a bruise or a welt on his face or something. And so now it is made explicit, right? Like it's revealed in the previous scene, but we actually see it. Now we get an actual flashback to Stallone. He was the younger man whom he saw in what we now recognize was a memory when he was looking out at the river, diving into the water where Liz's car has sunk, and he's in there and he's saving her. And it turns out he's dreaming.
Do you do this? Because I do this. Do you do this thing where anytime someone is like underwater in a film, you also hold your breath?
No.
Okay. I wonder if that's a common thing. Yeah. Hey, De Niro Nation, write into our hero, deniro@gmail.com. Let me know. I'm not going to read it on air, but I'm just curious.
We've got our first of two incredible Bruce Springsteen tracks in this scene. It's Drive All Night from the River. And let me just say, in a way that I think a lot of films that I like are, the last film I said this about was Pig, which I watched last year under a recommendation.
Great film, yeah.
This film, I agree. Pig is great. Yeah, solid 4.5 star bad boy. I really enjoyed that. This film is also kind of like a Bruce Springsteen song in a way I really like. It has more. Yeah, it has more political complexity to it, which I like in the film, but it kind of detracts from, I think, its value as a Springsteen song. But the whole cop angle of it all, the kind of lovelorn way that Sylvester Stallone is about Liz, I think is like, it's very Springsteen, and especially very The River, which is the album that both of these songs that are in this film are from. So you can see the inspiration, and like Mangold is like, he's making it explicit in some of his music choices.
I think we should note for the audience, there's a hypothetical future in which there are people beyond our immediate social sphere who listen to this podcast. Mike is a Bruce Springsteen super fan. He goes hog wild for Springsteen. So that's why he's noting that. And like, it didn't even like register. I mean, I like the songs. I've heard them before, but it like didn't register for me until afterwards when I was reading about it. And I was like, oh yeah, that was Springsteen. You think you could make a song about the De Niro dudes, De Niro Nation?
I don't know. Probably not.
No, probably not.
I think we're like the last people who Bruce Springsteen would ever write a song about. But
it'd be hard for him to find inspiration about two men in their mid-30s starting a film recap podcast in 2025.
Right, two men who are like two men who are like perfectly socially and economically secure with like pretty normal lives who are like doing a podcast about Robert De Niro. I don't know. Doesn't sound like the makings of a great Bruce Springsteen song to me. Okay, so he wakes up because somebody's knocking on his door, and we get a cut to a fire being put out. So a house has been on fire. There's a lady who's like burned up real bad from having been in the fire, and Ray Liotta runs up, and it was his house, and it was his girlfriend who was burned up, and they have like a last conversation, and she dies. And that's pretty messed up, honestly. It surprised me when it happened. I feel like shit went like 0 to 100 real quick in the film. Like,
and they did an effective job with the burn makeup. Like, her body is covered in burns. Yep. She's not looking too hot.
Horrifying.
It was quite unsettling, and it made me wonder, like, oh, is this character going to make it? And no, like she dies right then and there. It was
certainly not
pretty effective.
Yeah. Yeah, you feel the way this film is like very economical with its time. Like in a scene like this, I think like this scene's probably like 90 seconds long. Like you get so much. You like meet this character for the first time. You understand from like an establishment perspective like what's going on, and like you start to have some ideas about like why this might have happened. You see Ray Liotta like low. Like we've seen his humanity a little bit in some earlier scenes. Like we've gotten a sense that maybe he's the most human of the like bunch of scumbags, but like we haven't seen him like emote in that way before this scene. And like this is like man, I don't know, like maybe it's like coming out a little bit like here early in the conversation, but like I really love this movie. I think it's really good. It's one of the better ones that we've watched so far for the podcast. It's not perfect, but there's a lot.
That's not saying much, but I see what you're saying.
Yes. All right, so we cut to the next scene, and Stallone is back at the sheriff's office, and he's filling out a form about the lady who died. Her name was Monica, and we've got Ray Liotta there, and he is telling Sylvester Stallone that he thinks that Harvey Keitel burned his house down as some kind of retribution for the dust-up they had in the bar in the earlier scene we talked about, and just a sense that Harvey Keitel might have that he's like not solid, that he might be about to flip on them in some way. Harvey Keitel shows up and says in kind of like a fake loving way, like he's like trying to be helpful, but he's actually like being threatening. That he's there to support him, and that he's going to do what he can to get him a few weeks of leave from work, given that he's all torn up about his house being burned down and his girlfriend dying.
Yeah, as anyone would.
Yep, sure. I mean, it sounds sad. I mean, I love my house. I love my wife. I loved her when she was my girlfriend. It would be sad. So we're at the funeral for Michael Rappaport. And this is, I think, the first scene where it's made really explicitly clear that Stallone wants to be an NYPD cop, but he hasn't been able to get in because he's deaf in one ear. It was an injury that happened when he dove down into the water to save Liz when she was drowning. Janeane Garofalo's here. Harvey Keitel's here with his wife.
Everyone's there. Yeah, police funeral.
Right. You see them all, and you can really tell there's a lot of tension between these folks, like trouble in paradise for sure. Funeral ends. Stallone returns to the sheriff's office, and De Niro's there, and he's got a detective from his IA squad there with him as well. And De Niro shows him a picture of Paulie Walnuts from The Sopranos.
Oh my God. I just want to say I was so upset that we got Paulie Walnuts, possibly my favorite Sopranos character, but he's only ever seen in photographs.
Right, in this photo.
Non-speaking
Yeah,
role.
I agree.
Oh,
Sad.
I love
Yep.
Paulie. Paulie's
Yeah.
totally who I
So
would
when
be if
I
I was a
saw-
Sopranos character.
When I saw him the first time, I had Letterboxd open, and so I kind of scrolled down. I was like, "Oh, Tony Sirico's in this movie. Like, I wonder like how much he's in it. How high up is he on the list?" And I noticed he's like the third lowest actor on the list, and I was like, "Ah, he's not in it at all. That sucks." I was really excited as soon as he popped on the screen. Thought he was going to be in this movie.
Why
But
did
he's
you
not
have it
really.
up?
He's awesome.
You were looking through the cast as you were watching the movie.
I'm always I have to, man. I don't know. I can't tell who any of these people are. I have face blindness. I'm always looking at like the cast, like trying to figure out like what's going on. You don't know what it's like, okay? All right.
No, I'm not trying to make light of your invisible disability. You can't tell the difference between Harvey Keitel, Sylvester Stallone, Robert De Niro with a mop top, and Robert Patrick with a mustache.
No, it's not them. I know who those people all are. It was the other people. Like when other people would come on the screen, I'd be like, okay, like who is this person?
Okay.
Like, do I know
All right.
them from like a more modern role? Like I can kind of try to create some emotional connection to this person. I didn't look up, the T-1000. I wish I'd looked him up because I would have seen that, and that would have been nice.
Yeah,
The
it was
mustache
nice.
really does make him look so different. I did
It
not
really
make that
does.
connection. I feel like without the mustache, he is like one of Hollywood's iconic faces, and I like didn't recognize him at all. So he's showing him that, this picture indicates, because I think Harvey Keitel was in the picture, right? Like this picture incriminates the Copland cops. They're like, they got some kind of relationship with Paulie Walnuts, and this is like evidence that there's some sort of drug running going on in this community.
Yep,
Do you have anything more
they've
specific
got the
to say about
mob
this
connection.
mechanically?
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's it.
So Ray Liotta walks into the sheriff's office. He sees De Niro and his I don't know, what would you call like a detective on his squad? I guess his colleague. He sees De Niro and his colleague in Stallone's office through the window. And the detective, De Niro's associate, walks out and closes the door so Liotta can't hear the conversation. This is the point where De Niro explicitly tries to recruit Stallone to like be an informant, because think about like the mechanics of this, right? So this is like a really weird like dead zone, right? The whole like one of the values of having to live in the municipality that you serve in, if you're a cop, is that you are in the jurisdiction of that municipality. So the internal affairs cops can investigate you because they have jurisdiction in the area where you live and work. But this is like kind of a weird dead zone where like actually De Niro and his friends from internal affairs have no authority in this area. There's nothing they can do. So they need a cop like Stallone to help them out to actually to actually do anything here.
Stallone's not biting because he thinks the Copland cops
and
are good
Stallone
cops.
is not biting. Yeah.
He's like, what are you talking about? Harvey Keitel, the most suspicious looking man ever? No, he's totally cool.
So this is the point where Stallone really fucks up. And like I said earlier in the podcast, we'll see like where you choose to cut this in, because I have a feeling it's going to get cut in somewhere. Maybe it can be like an audio clip here at this moment.
I love
me
when you
saying
say
this.
shit like this. I can't wait.
I think that Stallone plays the perfect thing that he is able to play in this film, which is like a well-intentioned dumbass. And so like we really like see it in this moment, right? Like to your point, like Harvey Keitel is like the world's most suspicious guy. He seems so suspicious, but like Stallone is so stupid, and like he wants to be like an NYPD cop so bad that he like can't see it. And so even after De Niro has presented him with this evidence and explained, I think, in very clear terms what is going on here and why he thinks it, Stallone still thinks he can smooth things over. He's going to talk to Harvey Keitel. I think he even says in this scene, like he says something like really stupid. Like he's like, there's got to be some way we can work this out so it's good for everybody. And it's like, bro, like what the fuck are you talking about? Like you just saw evidence that these guys are like in bed with the mob, running drugs into the community that you are ostensibly the sheriff of, and like internal affairs suspects them but can't do anything and wants your help. Like how stupid could you be to think there's any end of this where everybody's happy? Like somebody's going to be disappointed. Are you fucking insane? Like, and so Keitel argues with him. He tells him that De Niro's character is a scumbag and that the way they recruit folks into internal affairs is actually when they find someone on the take, they use that as an opportunity to flip them. And they say like, oh, we're going to, prosecute you for this malfeasance that you've been found to be doing unless you become an internal affairs cop. So Stallone tries to press it a little bit, but Keitel rebuffs him one last time. And now he seems like maybe he's a little bit suspicious. Like maybe he thinks something's going on here.
Yeah. Stallone tells Keitel that internal affairs visited him. So like Keitel is getting some great information out of the blue while he's hosting some big fucking party at his house.
Yeah, and I said this earlier, but I should make it really clear because I want to tie this together with something that's going to happen later. I said like Stallone fucks up here in the scene, and I don't just think that. Like things will happen because Stallone had this conversation. Like there will be consequences to this like enormous fuck up on his part. So we cut to the evening, and Stallone's at his house, and Liz shows up. She was supposed to have a talk with Joey, but it didn't happen, and she's upset. And now we got our second Springsteen banger, another great River song, "Stolen Car," really nice. We had a great Stallone line delivery here that I just want to call out. I really, really love him in this role. She asks why he never got married, and he just says kind of like sheepishly and wistfully, all the best girls are taken.
Great line.
Like, oh, he's so good. He's so good in this role.
You didn't mention Harvey Keitel's party at all.
I think that happened next because I'm going to talk about it.
It didn't, but fine. Do it your way.
I mean, I'm looking at a paragraph about the party, which comes after this. So, like, I'm pretty sure chronologically it happened next in the movie because that's when I wrote about it. Maybe this is an interstitial scene, like in the middle of the party.
It's happening kind of.
I guess that's possible. But, like, don't worry, I'm going to talk about the party. It's extremely important. I'm going to talk about it after this part. So I wrote here, and I want to know what you think happened. I wrote, they're making out. I wonder if they're going to plow. And then the next time we see her, she's just walking out of the house to her van. Did you think they plowed?
I thought that they banged or plowed. I'm sorry. I think it was implied that they plowed.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Just good to know. All right. So let's talk about the party. A lot of stuff happens at the party. Let me just say, the party was the first moment. So almost everything that happens in this movie is relatively believable to me. But like, I think it's a little bit odd that Michael Rappaport was like on the front page of newspapers and was like apparently a famous cop. And like, he's just like hanging out. Like, he seems to just be going around town. Like, he's like living his life pretty normally. And he's at this party, and there's like dozens of people at this party. And he's just like, just walking around like out and proud. Everybody seems to know that he's alive. I don't know. Did that seem like believable to you? I know this was pre-social media. There weren't like people taking pictures and posting them on the internet of everyone. But like, he's letting dozens of people see that he's alive. Like, wouldn't that get out?
No, I totally agree. I thought it was a bizarre choice. So later on, we learned that this is a farewell party for him. And so he's clearly at a party with like close family and friends or whatever, like people who are members of that gang of cops. And so this is like they're seeing him off to his new life. But I thought it was a little unbelievable. You really think that like, even if he had this plan that Harvey Keitel like sold him on, that like, oh, we're gonna like hide you for a few days and like start you off with a new life somewhere else, you'd still hole him up somewhere. Like, you'd probably get like a cheap motel room and say like, listen, don't leave this fucking cash. Motel. Pay cash if you need anything. Exactly. Like, we're gonna go to Walgreens, bring you some delicious bologna. You wouldn't like throw a fucking Rager for this guy, but whatever. It's his last day, whatever, sure. And it was 1997, so what are you going to do, right? Call someone on their fucking landline? No.
Yeah, so the party's happening. Very little of importance happens in the party. You can tell me if I missed anything. The really important thing that happens is Harvey Keitel's wife brings Michael Rappaport a drink, and he doesn't want it because he's already drunk, but she insists that he take it. She says, I really want to give this to you. And so then he goes into the bathroom, and you kind of see, I can't remember exactly what it said, but you can see that there's some pen kind of scrawled on the inside of the cocktail napkin that she's got wrapped around it. And the word kill was pretty visible there. I think it said like, they're going to kill you or something. Did you catch exactly what the note said?
Did you not see what the note said when he looks at it, right?
Yeah, but I couldn't see exactly what it said.
Oh, it says they are going to kill you.
That's what I fucking said.
Well, right. I thought you meant that like when he's holding the cup, the glass, walking around, you could kind of see that there's writing like through the glass.
He looks at it in
like
the bathroom.
when
I
he
was saying
like
for
opens
me,
it up.
it was
and
very
when it's the
quick
only
and it was
thing
a little
on
smudgy.
screen. Dude, what did you watch it on your fucking phone?
I watched it on this big screen right here in front of me. I took my notes.
Okay.
I had the thing over here. Let me say, I've been enjoying watching some of these films on this big screen. I don't know if you will ever watch the movies on your big monitor. It's more fun when they're really wide. Like, I really would like them to be at least 21:9 so I can enjoy, like, the giant monitor. I liked this film. I thought it looked nice. I enjoyed the cinematography. But, like, 16:9, get the fuck out of here. Like, give me, like, a wider picture, please. Like, if I'm going to watch it on
I
my
agree.
giant monitor.
I mix it up. Sometimes I watch on my monitor. Sometimes I watch on my iPad, and I'll kind of take notes alongside.
That's how the director intended.
Listen, the director never. The director didn't even know.
10.9-inch iPad. Yep.
The director never could have foreseen podcasts taking off, and us doing this project. Would have blown his fucking mind 30 years ago.
Yeah, never have foreseen iPads, but probably neither, right? A lot of surprises in the world. These days. Yep.
Yeah.
So he goes outside, Michael Rappaport, and he has a conversation. He's very drunk. With Harvey
he's called
Keitel,
outside.
And
he's called outside. Yeah.
he's called outside.
This is it. It's quiet. It's happening.
This is the moment. T-1000 comes outside and he's like, yeah, everybody's gone. And they're like, you get the sense that there's something that's about to happen that Michael Rappaport doesn't suspect. And so they try to drown him. They get his head underwater. They're trying to drown him. He gets away and he runs away and they're chasing him. And another cop shows up, and I wrote, have we seen this guy? Who was the other cop who showed up at the end of the scene? That was Joey.
It was Liz's husband, Joey. He shows up.
Sure.
And he sees what's happening, and he's like, what the fuck? Like, he wasn't let in on this plan, but he kind of like lets everyone else run off after Rappaport.
Yeah. Okay. That explains something that happened later that I wondered if it was for
Oh, boy.
reason. But we'll get to it. All right. So... we're back to De Niro and his other IA detective who works for him, and the case has been shut down. So the mayor of New York is called, shut down the case, and so this is the consequence of Stallone's conversation, right? I think it's very clear that like Stallone basically tipped Harvey Keitel off that this IA investigation was happening, and Keitel used his political connections to get it shut down, and De Niro is really pissed.
Oh, he's not
flipping
happy.
out. He's throwing stuff all over the place. He's like knocking over boxes.
It was a really good. He doesn't have much time in this film, but he was really good in this supporting role as this IA detective or lieutenant. Like that freak out. Oh, he's just yelling at everyone to take their lunch, and one of his subordinates like shows like a sandwich or like donut that he's holding, and De Niro just yells, "Go to lunch, go to lunch, get the fuck out of here." It's really good stuff.
All right, so we're back to Garrison, and Stallone and Ray Liotta are hanging out in Stallone's house. He's been letting Ray Liotta stay with him. I don't think I've said that since his house burned down. And they're commiserating about like just how much worse their lives are now that they know the kind of depths of the corruption that's happening here.
Yeah, Ray Liotta tells Sylvester Stallone at one point, the mob built this town for Harvey Keitel so they could own a precinct. So the corruption runs deep in Copland.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. So now we cut to this has to be New York City, right? Where this scene happened in the city.
Yeah.
Well, no, there's a reason why I'm saying that. It's because it doesn't make any sense.
What are you talking about?
Don't these cops work in Garrison? Like, why is Joey in the city? Isn't the whole point that they're like this weird extension of NYPD that like works as like an extended transit authority, which implies like in the New Jersey like transit area?
No, that's how they were able to live in Garrison. They found a loophole.
Okay, so they work in the city. They just live.
They're all NYPD cops.
I know they're NYPD cops. I understand.
They're NYPD cops in New York City. Where the fuck do you think they're NYPD cops?
I don't know.
A different state?
They're called Auxiliary Transit Authority.
Right. So okay, so Harvey Keitel has the mob connections, and they're able to get like really good leases in Garrison, New Jersey. They come up with this bullshit loophole about becoming auxiliary transit, whatever, in order to live in Garrison, New Jersey, aka Copland, despite their municipality in which they work being New York City. So none of them will work. That's what separates them. That's one of the things that separates them from Stallone's character, because Stallone is the sheriff of Garrison, but he's looked down upon as like being, he's like a sheriff in a town full of cops. He has like nothing to do. Yeah. So yes, yeah. So yes. Please go on describing the scene. I can't wait to see
Joey's
how it all
there.
goes.
He's on the roof. He's having an altercation with a guy. I don't think we'd seen his interlocutor, right? The black dude with the grill who he's having the fight with on the roof. This guy was not a random character in the film prior, right? He's just a guy who he's having an altercation with. Yep. So more cops show up, and Joey is kind of thrown off the building by the guy he's scuffling with, but manages to hold on to an antenna that's affixed to the brick on the side of the building. But you can tell it's like wobbly. It's not a great situation. Harvey Keitel shows up, and it's pretty clear that he doesn't want Joey to survive. So I wondered in the scene if this was because of the affair that he was having with Harvey Keitel's wife. But it sounds, based on what you shared earlier about something I misperceived about the party scene, like maybe it was for 2 reasons. Like it might have also been because he witnessed the Michael Rappaport thing, and that's a loose end that can get cleaned up. Am I interpreting this correctly now?
Yeah, I was waiting to press the buzzer again, but I'm trying to become a more a softer podcast co-host. I wanted you to.
You're doing a great job.
I am. So when Ray Liotta was talking to Stallone about the mob connections to Harvey Keitel, at the same time in Four Aces, Keitel and his crew of goons are asking Joey if Joey will help them hunt down and kill Rappaport. And Joey is unsure. He's uncertain. So Keitel recognizes that Joey is now a loose end that needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
And when Joey and his partner are on this rooftop, this decrepit rooftop in New York City, Joey's partner is like, he's all fucked up. He's trying to call it in, but Joey's getting like into a fight with this random whatever black guy with the grill, and the black guy intimidates him and straight up says like, leave the situation alone. He's like telling him like leave the fucking Michael Rappaport thing alone, and you'll be fine, and your family will be fine. But then they like continue fighting, and that's when he's thrown over onto that whatever antenna. So yes, it is directly connected.
Part of this is my face blindness, I think, here,
Okay.
So anyway, you kind of get the sense that Harvey Keitel does not want him to make it. And so
you get the sense.
He has to get through a fire door, and the door is open, and Harvey Keitel closes the door and pretends it's locked. So he makes a whole show of like putting a bobby pin in and like picking the lock, and like it taking him like 15 or 20 seconds to get it open. And then just as the other cops come up, he's like, "Oh, wow, good news, I got it." And this was all a ploy to delay so there would be time for Joey to fall off, and he's fallen and he's dead.
He's fallen and he can't get up.
No, he's not going to be getting up, man. He's fucking grape jelly on the old pavement down there. So now back to Stallone's house, and Michael Rappaport shows up. He's on the run. And he gets the sense, I think correctly, that Stallone is somebody he can trust. But as they're having a conversation, Michael Rappaport's on the stoop. Stallone is inside the doorway. He sees Ray Liotta walk up behind Stallone, and he doesn't know that Ray Liotta is one of the good guys. He just knows that he's one of the Copland cops, and he jets off. He thinks that he
gets spooked.
Now. He gets spooked. Next day, I think this is the first time we see physical evidence of Ray Liotta being a cokehead. Stallone is in the bathroom, and he finds like some cocaine residue on a mirror that Ray Liotta was apparently doing coke off of earlier. I wondered here if I might end up forgetting to mention he's a coke addict, but I did not.
You did mention it, and you know what? Good for Stallone, because like he's a real friend. He sees it, he notices it, he figures out what's going on, and he just washes the mirror off. He doesn't say anything. The guy, Ray Liotta's girlfriend died. His house burned down. Let the guy do a little coke. It's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, let him get his rocks off.
I think I'm inclined to agree. I don't know though. I mean, he's like a known addict, though.
That's true. He's a little volatile.
Yeah, I mean, like I think I'm inclined to agree that if like someone's at a low point in their life and they want to engage in like a little bit of recreational drug abuse, like it's probably not
Just
the
a little
time
bit
to like try to help them. But like, you know,
just had
he
to
was
sit down and have
already
an
addicted to
intervention.
coke. This isn't like new behavior because his girlfriend's dead. Like I think it is known that he has a coke problem. But sure, whatever. So we're back to the cop bar, and Artie Bucco's here, another Sopranos star.
Dude.
Can't think of that actor's name.
Neither can I, but he was also at Harvey Keitel's party earlier. Did you not see him?
Oh,
there?
I missed that. I missed him there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he was there. Love Artie Bucco.
So Stallone is there. He's talking to Harvey Keitel, trying to reason again, but he just cannot be reasoned with. So finally, Stallone's had it, and he heads into the city to meet with De Niro. And De Niro is pissed because he blew the investigation. And I noted here, fun little parallel. You decide whether you maybe want to cut in, some audio. I think you actually should here because I think it's pretty funny. This scene really reminded me of the scene in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory where Gene Wilder like on Charlie. I feel like Robert De Niro has big Gene Wilder and like the last act of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory energy in the scene where he's knocking all the files off. He reminded me of him, but especially in this scene. Like, I think if you go back and like watch the scenes side by side, you'll see the parallels. It was kind of making me chuckle a little bit.
Listen to me, you deaf fuck. I offered you a chance when we could have done something. I offered you a chance to be a cop, and you blew it.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You stole fizzy lifting drinks. You bumped into the ceiling, which now has to be washed and sterilized, so you get nothing. You lose.
That was kind of what it was doing for me. But De Niro is rightly very pissed at Stallone for fucking up his whole investigation and getting it shut down when all he did was trust him and want his help. So Stallone's rebuffed, but before leaving the office, he steals some of the files that are going to be purged due to the investigation having been shut down. So now Stallone's back at the sheriff's office. He's looking through the files.
Let me just say, too, De Niro's no dummy. He says to his partner, as De Niro's walking out of the office, he says, "That cupcake makes a mess. We got a case again." So I think he's kind of banking on Stallone taking the law or taking matters into his own hands because he exists beyond De Niro's jurisdiction.
Fair enough. So we've got Stallone. He's looking at the evidence. He's got like promissory notes for mortgages for some of these dead cops. And it appears that these houses are part of this scheme, right? You described this a little bit earlier. I did not understand the mechanics of this scheme at all when I was watching. But somehow there are like these houses involved. I don't really know very much about house prices in the late 90s, but they were like under $200,000 for a nice area of New Jersey. So I'm assuming these houses were pretty cheap, right? I don't know. Was that cheap for a house in the late 90s in like a New York City suburb? I would assume, right?
I don't know what they paid exactly, but the point is that they're cheap. They got like a really good deal on this real estate. And like the interest rates, I think. Okay,
I didn't notice the interest rates. Interest rates were, I think, quite low in the mid to late 90s. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. Well, really getting in the weeds here.
I don't know. I mean, it's important. I should have looked it up. All right. So now Stallone is
it's that important, but you didn't pick up on it at all.
Yep. So Stallone is at a carnival and John Spencer's there. He's in a disguise and you're kind of looking around and there's a lot of cops there who are kind of disguised, like being a
Copland Carnival.
Being a little sus.
Hey, how do you feel about carnivals?
I don't know. I mean, I loved the Hamlin Carnival when I was a little kid. Now, I don't know, or my parents let me ride those rides, to be honest. Like, seems really dangerous, right? Like, I don't know. I think I'd still ride one, honestly, like me. But, like, I just think about, like, I don't know. They just let some random kid probably making $4 an hour, like, put those rides up. You know, like, tighten in the bolts. Like, what kind of quality control could they possibly have had on that?
That's kind of how I feel. I haven't been to the carnival in a long time, but I feel like, I'll go to a theme. We should go to some theme parks this summer. That'd be a lot of fun. But like the carnival, it's just like this. I don't know what their quality control is like, and I am hesitant to get into anything that's like going up into the air, or that could like result in me becoming maimed. But I'll like walk around and eat some funnel cake and have a beer. I guess
funnel cakes.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. So what was the point of the carnival scene, by the way? Because I wrote here in the scene, like, are they going to kill Stallone?
Robert Patrick.
Like maybe they were. Yeah.
Robert Patrick, a.k.a. Mustache, talks to Sly
AKA
and lets
T-1000.
AKA the T-1000, and he lets Stallone know that they know about his trip to De Niro's office in the city.
Yep. This isn't when he fires the gun next to his ear, though, right? That's not for a couple scenes.
That's not for a couple of scenes. This is when they're at the carnival playing the little sharpshooting game.
That's right. I remember. Thank you. Yep. Okay. So,
If only you took notes.
you want to see him?
No, not really.
All right. Okay. So
Where
Stallone
were we?
is back with. I know exactly where we were. So Stallone is back with Liz, and he leaves and gets in his car, and one of the cops is there and threatens him from the back seat. He goes home, and Ray Liotta's there, and he's received the insurance payout for his burned down house. And in this moment, Stallone sees that the bag that he's using to pack his stuff is burned. It has scorch marks on it. And so he suspects that Ray Liotta has burned his own house down. So he goes to Liotta's house to investigate, and he finds something there. I did write it down. I can't remember what it was. That makes it clear to him that was the case, that Ray Liotta did burn his own house down. He goes home. He confronts Ray Liotta about it. They have an argument, and Ray Liotta says this line that I really like: "Being right is not a bulletproof vest, Freddy."
Yeah, Monaco wasn't supposed to be there. The bomb was on a timer. He got the materials from Edie Falco, who's a member of Bomb Squad. Shit went sideways, man. It all went sideways.
Terrible stuff. Yep. So Stallone goes and questions Harvey Keitel's wife about where Michael Rappaport is. Turns out he's hanging out at the water tower. Amazing place
Great
to hide.
place to hide.
Yep. Stallone goes up there. There's a bunch of empty cans of Campbell's. So now Stallone has located Rappaport. He's brought him to the sheriff's office jail, and he's been abandoned. Janine Garofalo has transferred back to Elmira. She's had enough of this. She was in the movie for about 6.5 minutes. Noah Emmerich, he's got a wife at home. She's pregnant. He doesn't feel comfortable with all this nasty business they're getting involved with. So Stallone is left alone. And as he is alone, escorting Michael Rappaport out of the sheriff's office, he's accosted by the crooked cops, and one of them fires their gun right next to Stallone's good ear, deafening him. And in the scuffle, they take Rappaport and drive away.
Okay, so I want to stop you right there. What did you think of this scene of Stallone's good ear being blown out by the gunshot?
I thought it was horrifying. I think that we've all heard a really loud sound, right? You've never fired a gun. Have you ever been near a gun when it was firing?
I'm a pacifist. Nah.
It is
They're loud. They're very loud. I know they're loud. Movies often underplay that.
Yep. It is unbelievably loud. If you had a gun fired next to your ear, like it would hurt so bad. Like it is horrifying. It's so horrible.
Yeah, I thought it was a really effective use of violence in this. This film uses violence sparingly but effectively. Like that.
Yep.
That was so much more disturbing to me than like your classic just movie violence, like The Untouchables, where it's just cops and robbers shooting each other and dropping.
I agree. Yes, violence deployed thoughtfully and with restraint is always more upsetting than violence that is done with reckless abandon. I feel pretty strongly about that. So Stallone grabs a shotgun. He's on the hunt now. I think he's deaf now. He's kind of walking with his shotgun through the nice neighborhood that the cops live in. He approaches Harvey Keitel's house. One of the crooked cops is there, points his gun at him, and Stallone pulls on him and shoots him down. John Spencer comes around the corner and shoots Sylvester Stallone in the shoulder. And Stallone turns the shotgun on him and shoots him dead. And as he is coming around the car, the first cop he shot is on the other side of the car, and he sees him reflected kind of through the side view mirror and notes that he's about to get up and shoot him. He's a little slow to respond, and just as he's about to be shot, Ray Liotta enters the scene, takes down his would-be attacker, and the boys are back. They're back together. Harvey Keitel is up in the window. He's looking down at them. He points his gun out at Stallone, but just as he's about to pull the trigger, Ray Liotta points the gun up and fires, shoots the window out, and scares Harvey Keitel away such that he cannot shoot at Stallone. and they're going into the house. This is this is the moment where I remarked upon in my notes the way the audio is done in this scene. I really like it. I wonder what you thought of it. So the way that they do the audio design in the scene is everything is very muffled, and it's kind of meant to convey what it would be like to be Sylvester Stallone in this scene. This is a scene kind of done from his perspective, and it's very unnerving and claustrophobic. The way that everything is just muffled, you can't hear anything. The gunshots are very quiet. The voices are just kind of this din of kind of muffled nonsense. What did you think of this? Did you like this?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was really well done sound design. And again, I'm contrasting it against Savage Salvation, because in that film, there's an action scene that I thought was decent, but then they destroyed it by cutting out all of the gunfire and like fighting noises and replaced it with this somber cover of Amazing Grace. And that just totally killed the scene for me. Whereas here, this creative decision to muffle the sound that Stallone is hearing and add that sort of, high ring, that high pitched ringing tinnitus kind of sound, it really does make the scene so much more tense and unnerving. And you really, feel for Stallone's character here, like what he's going through as he's trying to go on this brave stand against Harvey Keitel and his cadre of crooked cops.
Oh, I so agree. Yeah. I love Amazing Grace. It's my favorite song. But even I didn't like it in that Savage Salvation scene. So he's inside, he's going upstairs, and he's in the master bedroom. Keitel's wife is there. Michael Rappaport is in there. He's trying to escape through the window, and Harvey Keitel comes up the stairs and almost takes out Stallone as Rappaport is trying to exit through the window. But just at that moment, Ray Liotta makes it up. He scares him. He kind of startles him, interrupts him, and manages to distract him such that Stallone can shoot him dead in that moment. And that is the end of that scene. And that's really great. Kind of the end of the drama. Yep. So we're in New York. Stallone and Liotta have brought Rappaport there. De Niro takes him into custody. It's a pretty happy ending. And we end the film as it started, with a De Niro voiceover, quote, "No one is above the law." And then we get a radio newscast with a little bit more exposition.
Some newsposition, yeah.
Stallone was able to get medical treatment for his good ear. It's fine. He's able to hear now. Tons of indictments. The union has been revealed as being implicated in this in some way. And Stallone has returned to his job in life as the sheriff. That's the end of the film. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's get into final ratings here using the Letterboxd scale. Mike, what did you think of Copland? What would you give this film?
Oh, it's tough. I think I'm probably landing on 4 stars though. It's not quite in 4.5 star territory. I think that the story it tells is it's a little bit facile and simplistic. I think thematically it probably could have had a little bit more to say about the issues that it explores, but technically, it's a great movie. The cast is stacked. All of the performances are great. You commented on this earlier. We talked about it at the top. De Niro's on screen for like 94 seconds, but like all of his seconds that he's on screen are excellent. He does a really, really nice job. It's a very strong performance, and they're all great. I really enjoyed it. What about you? What do you think?
I'm in complete agreement here. This is certainly one of the better films we've seen so far for this project. It was a very solid... this film is essentially a Western. It's a Western that is set in 1997, New York City / New Jersey. I liked it a lot. I agree with what you said, though. It's a little short, feels a little rushed. Seeing Stallone in this gear. So what I mentioned earlier, what I alluded to was wanting to talk about this kind of dynamic, this contrast between Stallone, the actor, and the character that he plays, Freddy. So I was reading about this film afterwards and saw that James Mangold had a comment about how he originally intended for Freddy to be cast as like a no-name actor. And I actually think that would have helped the film. part of what makes this film a little weird is like Stallone is good in it. He's a good actor. He has the right gears for this. He plays kind of a gentle giant kind of character, but like the entire time, like you know that you're watching Sylvester Stallone, and so yeah, it's kind of subversive. He's playing against type, but you're thinking about that the whole time, like, oh, it's like daring to be different than your usual Stallone film. But I don't think Mangold was trying to do that necessarily. He was just trying to make this small scale Western, like neo-Western. So that it almost kind of detracted from it a little bit for me. I think I'm also landing on 4 stars, but it slots just underneath The Untouchables for me. I still enjoyed The Untouchables more. I had such a blast watching it. This was still a very good film, though, and definitely worth watching for fans of the genre or James Mangold or this incredibly stacked cast.
Yeah, we referenced something earlier, and I want to make sure we cover it, and it's very related to the comment that you just made about thinking about this relative to The Untouchables. So when we watched The Untouchables, I think we agreed, right, that it could have stood for it to be a little bit longer. Given some context and fleshing out that is missed. Do you feel the same way about this? You think this could have stood to be a little bit longer, given the story it was trying to tell?
Yeah, I mean, 101 minutes is tough in general, and this is very efficient in its storytelling. It's very economical, but yeah, I do agree with you. A little more meat wouldn't have hurt this.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, I really enjoyed this movie. I think it could have used even another 10 minutes. Like, they were very economical with the way they used the time they had. I think with 10 more minutes, they really could have made this thing sing, fleshed it out a little bit more, and it just used a little bit more time, but still a great film. I really enjoyed it. All right, go ahead. What's your recommendation?
Yeah, my recommendation, I was not sure which direction I wanted to go with this. So I'm thinking, do I honor the director, James Mangold? Do I honor the entire cast of The Sopranos? No, I ended up deciding to honor the lead here, Sylvester Stallone. And we will see Stallone again in some future De Niro films, at least one. I'm recommending 1993's Demolition Man. You ever see Demolition Man?
I never have, no.
Oh, that's fucking crazy, man. It is like such an early 90s action staple. So it's a sci-fi, like dystopian action film starring Sylvester Stallone, who plays a cop who's like cryogenically frozen and then awoken in the future to stop his, I guess, arch nemesis, who's this insane criminal played by Wesley Snipes. And it is just a ton of fun. It has a lot of over-the-top action. It's funny. It has Wesley Snipes, I mean, is awesome too. It's kind of campy, but it's very fun in like an early 90s kind of way. Like they don't make them like that anymore. So that's my recommendation if you're on a little Stallone high after Copland. Watch Demolition Man. It's been a while. What about you? What did you recommend?
It's a lovely recommendation. So I would also like to honor Stallone with my recommendation. And I thought about this, and I tried to think of a film that like you would watch if you were doing a Sylvester Stallone podcast, where maybe you'd think like, oh, this is really a movie that somebody else is in. This is really a movie that somebody else is in, and Sylvester Stallone is just in it for a little while. And so the one that I want to recommend is Creed, which is a kind of late career.
I considered that. I considered recommending that.
What is it, like it's the fourth Rocky movie, right? Essentially, it's like a. There
was a Rocky
reboot.
4, man.
Oh, there's a fourth. All right, so it's the fifth Rocky movie then. I couldn't remember if Rocky 3 was.
There was also like Rocky Balboa. I mean, you're really fucking up the order here, but yes, it is a later Rocky film.
Yeah. If you were doing a Sylvester Stallone podcast, you would watch Creed and you would think like, oh, well, Stallone, he's really good in this, but he's only in it for like about 11 minutes. And Michael B. Jordan, absolutely incredible actor. Wish I was doing a podcast about him because I would really enjoy talking about Creed. This is me and the hypothetical Sylvester Stallone podcast that I'm talking about doing. Creed is an excellent movie. I feel like it's in the mold of the best sports movies, which is that you don't need to care about sports. You don't need to know anything about boxing. You don't have to care about anything that's going on here. It's so about the human drama and about the art of the film itself. And you're able to get swept up in in Michael B. Jordan caring about winning this boxing match, even though like I couldn't possibly care less whether somebody wins a boxing match. And it's just really nice. It's a really wonderful movie, and Sylvester Stallone is really good in it, even though he is more of a supporting character as Rocky Balboa than he is in the earlier Rocky films. So there you go.
You know what? Creed is also, it's one of the few films that has made me cry or tear up.
Oh yeah, how could you not?
Yeah.
That's a 5-star film for sure. Easy.
I don't know if I gave it 5, but I like it a lot. I think it's really great. And with that, it's time to roll for the next film. We're done with Zero Day, and we're back in our regular schedule of watching De Niro films. It's my turn, so I'm ready. Are you ready for this shit?
I'm very ready, man. I'm really ready.
If you say so. All right, I have the dice ready. I'm going to roll, and here we go. I rolled 62. So 62 is the 2004 film Godsend. This is a psychological horror thriller film starring Greg Kinnear, Rebecca Romijn, and Robert De Niro, directed by Nick Ham. Never heard of him. With a screenplay by Mark Bomback. I might have heard of him, yeah. I've never heard of this either. It looks like it was a pretty mild hit. It was had a budget of $25 million at the box office, or it had a budget of $25 million and made $30 million at the box office. I've never seen it. I've never heard of it. I don't know if it's any good, but that is what we will be watching next week. Godsend.
Very good.
And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and call it. I don't even think Mike can hear me anymore. We've had a lot of technical issues this episode. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and thank some people here. Thanks to De Niro Nation for listening to this podcast. If you haven't rated us yet in Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever, please do so. Thanks to Caroline for the artwork. Thanks to, I think I'm thanking everyone, honestly. Follow Mike and I on Letterboxd. He's Mike the Fab. I'm Mike back at you. And email us at ourherodeniro@gmail.com. Just remember, live show rules include something that we can actually reply to. And with that, we'll be back next week with 2004's Godsend.
Thanks, everybody.